A trigger, as the name indicates, is a stored program that is executed whenever a specified event occurs. And we have actually three events: the insert, the update, and delete. So we create triggers to be executed either before one of these three events, or instead of one of these three events, or after one of these three events. Okay, so whenever there is an update, we can have a trigger that will be executed just before the update, or instead of this update, or after this update. Same thing for insert, the same thing for delete. Okay, so if we have a delete, so we can have a trigger that will be executed before, or instead of this delete, or after this delete. So resulting in a total of 9 trigger types, but not all 9 trigger types are supported in all DBMSs. For example, Oracle supports all 9 trigger types. SQL Server supports 6 trigger types instead of and after, so it does not support the before. And MySQL supports 6 trigger types before and after, it does not support the instead of. Let us take a look at a trigger. So for example, this is a trigger code to insert a default value. What is going on here? So we will start by create trigger, the name of the trigger, after insert on trans. What does this mean? This means that if I have an insert statement, then after this insert statement is executed on the table trans, we will, or this trigger will be executed. We will start by a declaration section, so we will declare variables, and then we will begin. So what we want to do again is to insert default value. So what we are going to do actually, again, this is just coding, very simple coding. So insert, select count, and store this count in a variable called row count from the table trans as an alias t, where new work ID equals to t work ID. So if we are inserting a default value, what we are doing here is that we are calculating the number of the copies of this ID, of this work. So if row count is equal to 1, then, so if row count is equal to 1, then this is the first time the work has been in gallery. Why? Because we are executing this after the insert. So if it's 1, then this record has already, or this work has already been inserted, and the number now of this, the records that have this work ID is equal to 1. So this is the first time the work has been in gallery, and in this case we will add a default value. We will insert actually a default value that is the new asking price is, because, so this is actually a business rule. If it is the first time of the first time we have this work, then the asking price is equal to 2 multiplied by the acquisition price. Else, if the row count is higher than 1, so in this case there is another business rule which says if work has been here before, so actually this is the work has been before, so we will select the sum of net profit and put it in a variable, and then we will calculate the average profit equals to sum of net profit divided by the number of rows minus 1. So now choose larger value. So this is again a business rule. So actually the business rules say if the work exists before, so we will choose between two values. Either the so if the acquisition price plus average profit is higher than or is bigger than 2 multiplied by acquisition price, then the asking price is equal to the acquisition price plus average net profit. Else, so if this condition does not hold, then the asking price is equal to 2 multiplied by acquisition price. And if, and then else, which means that this else is related to this one. If row count is less than 1, then error, so send an error message that the number is negative. Okay, so this is an example of a trigger of an after insert trigger. Another example, so update an SQL view. So here we have create trigger. What? Create trigger instead of update on customer interest view. If we are updating, instead of updating, what we will do is to execute this part of code. So whatever we will do. Okay, so actually if the row count is equal to 1, then update customer, set customer last name equal to new last name, and where the customer last name is equal to last name old. And if there are more than, so what we want to do is to update the last name of a customer. So if the rows that have this last name is higher than 1, we will just send a message saying sorry, there are too many records with this last name. And if the number is negative, then we will also send an error message. So this is also this is an example of an instead of update trigger. The last example, this is so instead of delete. So this is, for example, a trigger that will so this is, for example, a trigger that will enforce the minimum cardinality of a table. So actually delete all but last child. So create trigger employee delete check instead of delete on delete employee view. Okay, so we are deleting the employees, but we cannot delete the last employee in a department. So what we are going to do is that we are going to find the count, and then if the count is higher than 1, then we will delete the employee. And then if the so this is strictly higher than 1, so which means that if it is equal to 1, we will send a message that we cannot delete this department, this employee, because a department cannot be empty with 0 employees, which means that the employee here is mandatory.